Hi, this is 5th of April 2019. Tomorrow is the first day of the week-long advanced workshop with the theme, The New Normal. And I just wanted to share. Somebody asked me, what did you learn today? And, this person doesn't know Dr. Joe Dispenza's work. So I just actually really thought about how would I describe how Dr. Joe's work has actually impacted my life. And I think it really starts with his book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. And to know that the self that we identify with, that we are actually hindered by this identification with the self-image, with all the historical, things that we cling on to, and that could be, trauma, wounding, to, really a lot of things that we think define us. And I don't know, some of you might know Caroline Myss, but Caroline Myss started using the term woundology, and I think a lot of us unconsciously are suffering from woundology, meaning we start to glorify our wounds and we carry it with us like a trophy. And so very often we fall back into patterns of justifying why we think a certain way, why we don't trust, why we don't surrender, why we don't change. And, these things, we are our own worst enemy. The book Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself really explains how we, through our conditioning, become the programs that we get stuck in. Dr. Joe Dispenza really made me realize that we have these neural networks for everything in our lives. So we have neural networks for money, we have neural networks for our career, we have neural networks for every problem and every person that we know in our lives. And that means we cannot think outside of that neural network, because that neural network is created to make our lives simple. But at the same time, if we're going to break outside of it, we're going to have cognitive dissonance. And so I realized just lately, through this real practice of taking 1,000,000% responsibility, seeing everything as a reflection of my consciousness, people showing up in my life that I resist as manifestations of my consciousness, the painful relationships, the disappointments, the frustrating conflicts, the recurring patterns. They were just a manifestation and expression of my neural networks and the energy patterns that I keep manifesting in this dense reality called life, in the 3D world that we live in. And so I've really started taking responsibility for that, and we started saying in the mastermind, in the book club that I run, we started saying to each other, there are no other people. And to give an example, there are, I was mentioning tonight that there were 2 videos that came out that really made me realize that we have such an impact on things that happen to so-called other people. And so in one video, this was a fast EFT video with Robert Schmidt, and he was basically working on a woman who found a little dog that started manifesting all these seizures in her life. And she was so disturbed by the seizures that she actually did fast EFT with Robert on it. And 30 minutes later in the session, there was a testimonial of this woman talking about how after she did the work on herself, on basically all the trauma in her life that led to her meeting the dog that then manifested all the seizures, she actually realized that the dog was sent to her to actually help her heal really deep-seated issues in her life around powerlessness and not being able to save, animals or people that she loved. And after she did the session with Robert, the dog stopped having seizures. And I started realizing, how are we interconnected with everything? How do children manifest the problems of their parents? How do, you know, new generations manifest the unfinished business of the ancestors? How do, you know, companies manifest the dysfunctions of the leadership, you know? And this goes into such, you know, breadth of our collective consciousness. So consciousness is the real work. Awareness, seeing the patterns, seeing the things that we keep creating from the same level of consciousness, and then really choosing not to reenact them anymore. Another video that I was flabbergasted by was a woman who had to forgive her mother. This was a Dr. Joe Dispenza student. It was a really new testimonial. Go to his YouTube testimonial and you'll find this woman. Basically, she had to forgive her mother, and her mother had throat cancer because her mother was actually in, you know, she knew about abuse that was happening with this woman when she was a child, and the mother didn't do anything. She didn't protect her child. And because of the radical forgiveness that this woman was practicing, she basically started realizing that she could do something about this. And so basically in one of the processes that we practice, which is the walking meditation, this woman started tuning into this reality where her mother was healed from the throat cancer. And actually that is what happened. Her mother healed from the throat cancer. This was, you know, this was reality for her. It wasn't just a meditation. It wasn't like a visualization. Her love for the picture of her mother healing created her mother healing. Well, we cannot really, you know, the thing, this is, of course, this is all about causality. And a lot of materialists who don't believe in a world of consciousness, they will argue, you know, how do we know that there's a causal connection between the mother healing from cancer and this woman doing a meditation on it? But there is so much out there in the world that we don't understand around connectedness and how, and one level of, in another higher level or deeper level of consciousness, we're all interconnected, and the work that we do on ourselves is impacting people around us. The symptoms that occur in our lives, the symptoms of pain, the symptoms of disease, of distress, of poverty consciousness, of conflict that occur around us, they actually might be manifestations of some imbalance in our own inner world. And those of us that are awake enough, that are curious enough, that are burdened enough to want to do something about it, there's so much out there that you can study, that you can, you know, experiment with. Don't try and change the problem by blaming, by looking for excuses, by thinking it's somebody else. You with your consciousness, me with my consciousness, you with your curiosity, and you as a pioneer can make changes in the unified field that we all are connected to. And it's so empowering to know this. And you know, there's so much more that I can say that is going on in my life, that it just really shows me the power of my thought, the power of my shifts, and the synchronicities, the miracles, the things that are happening in my life. They are so beautiful. If I, you know, every time I share them with people, they are flabbergasted. They're like, what? And maybe one day I'm ready to share it, what's been going on with me. But I myself, I'm going to continue this experiment with radical ownership of everything that shows up in my life as being part of my consciousness or lack of consciousness. And so, yeah, those of you who have studied the Changing the Box teaching and who have been practicing that meditation, you will know what I'm talking about. Those of you who don't know it, you know, you'll have to wait. And but definitely understand that on some level your consciousness is co-creating everything that shows up in your life. And that when you shift, the outer world must shift. But it's not going to shift through your blame. It's not going to shift through your victimhood. can only shift when you own your power as a very powerful co-creator. And can only say, take that power and create a wonderful life. This is from Mallorca. Have a good night. Bye-bye.